Great Search, brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit. Every single week, Lady Ada uses her power of engineering to help you, yes, you find the things that you want to find on digikey.com. Lady Ada, what you looking for?
Okay, so this week we got a request for an LED sequin, and we stock LED sequins in the store. They're like little PCBs, and they have an LED resistor on them, and it's meant to, like, you could sew them very easily into clothing and costumes. And the request we had was, could you make one with UV LEDs? Because we stock them like so orange. We stock them with like red, yellow, green, blue, whatever, pink LEDs, but they wanted UV so that they could have this. They have like a flag or like a tissue, like a fabric tissue, and it is painted with UV-reactive paint, and they want to sew the LED onto the fabric itself, which I was like, that's kind of cool. So it would like glow like from within, kind of. And I was like, that's a cool idea. So I thought, let's make a breakout for a UV LED. And then I was like, well, I have to go spec one. And UV LEDs, before you're like, we'll just pick whatever. And we have through-hole ones. But one thing to note about UV is it's actually kind of a wide spectral band. And it's used for a lot. So you have to be careful because UV can be as little as, there's the far UV, but basically about like 100 or 200 nanometers to the long, 100, which is ultraviolet C, which is like for germicidal, like, when people are like, oh, put your whatever glasses or jewelry into a UV sterilizer, it sterilizes it. That's usually shortwave UV. And then medium wave UV, which I don't actually know what people use for, but you can detect it. You have UV, it comes from the sun. And then UVA, which is, about 360 nanometers. And once you get closer to 400, it becomes visible. That's like that purple light that you see from black lights. It's actually 400. As you get closer to 300, you can't visibly see it. You see UV light. But there's always a little bit of leakage because that you're going to have a distribution of light that comes out. And so really like good UV LEDs, you're like, is it working? Because you see like a little, like they'll have a little faint, like purplish white glow to them, but it's because your eyes can't detect UV. You have to be very careful around UV LEDs because you get like the really, really bright ones for curing resins and stuff. And you're like, is it on? And you could really blast your eyes. So just be careful with that. So the UV that we're looking for is, one second. No, so these are short wave, long wave. So black lights, right? So this is what they're talking about. They were like, we want a black light UV. Black lights are, they're often used in lamps because that's historically how we would get UV output. They're much less expensive, and they tend to do around 400-ish nanometers, is why you could see them and they look purple. They're also very bright. Problem is, of course, you don't want to wave around a glass wand when you're doing this, like, whatever performance dance. So what we want to do is find LEDs that emit, and I can look this up, 365. That's the nanometers that you want to get that will not be harmful to your eyeballs, but will make fluorescent stuff and dyes glow in a nice, beautiful effect. And also, of course you want to get as close to the most effective frequency because UV LEDs, and one thing you'll know if you use them is it's like you have to get like very bright ones to get a good effect because again they're not visible. You're reflecting the light off of this fluorescent dye and you're trying to get it to glow, and that's what you see. So you have to like really blast them. So if you're going to do it, and UV LEDs are not cheap, you might as well go for the best, closest possible frequency. What is this, like Winamp? Who knows what this is? It's a weird like AI drawing. Okay. What's going on? Okay, so let's look for UV LED. And there's actually a couple. So one thing I'll say is that they have, for like the really beastie lights, you can get these that come on a heat sink. They're pre-made. We don't want these. They're also like kind of expensive. They're like, $12 is not too bad, but $40 is expensive. We're going to make our own. But just so you know, if you want to like get a ready to go module, you can do that. There's UV reactive stuff, but we want LED emitters. Okay, and as usual, we're going to look only at active. And let's just for now filter out marketplace, and we'll only look at normally stocking because we want stuff that we can buy. So that takes us down to like, 1,600 from 4,000. Okay, next step, obviously what we care about is we want it to be surface mount. There's a lot of through hole UV LEDs. And I'm going to get the dash as well in case. So that gets us 900. And then the next thing we want to do is make sure that wavelength, right? So we said 365. So some of these are much smaller. You'll see like 200, 270. They tend to be very narrow ranges. Let's just pick up 340 up to 390, maybe 400, just to see what's up. But, we really do want 365. And then you see they get into like this very wide range. Okay, so that gives us 125 options. I would like to narrow it down to just 365, but we'll see what we got. Okay, next, we have a lot of options, but some of them are quite pricey. And that's fine, I get it. This is like a 1.4 amp LED. This is like very, very bright. We're gonna try to not do that, see if we can get away with something that isn't. Again, a lot of these are used for curing resins or disinfection. So you need to like really blast the heck out of the area. Let's see if we can get away with something less. So let's search for, in quantity, 250, which is, about a quarter of a reel. And we sort. Okay, so the good news is that there's a lot of options under about $1. And another thing that's really nice is a lot of these actually, they even say that they are, 365, 395, 380. It looks like there's a couple options. So what I'm going to do is, since there are so many options within that 365 range, I'm going to get rid of the outliers, like the really high values, like 400 and 395 and stuff. This might take a while, 395. Could get reloads each time. That's okay. All right, now let's see what we got. So a couple of these, they don't have an image, but that's okay. These are, pretty big. Some of these have multiple diodes per LED. Some of these are really big. So next thing I would do, the only thing that's a little annoying is they don't tell you the emitted light. You kind of have to just, you can look at the DC forward current, and that'll give you a good sense of like how bright you're expecting them to get. So this one is a good like high-end option. It's 250 milliamps. But since I'm going to make these little sequins, I'm going to just start with something simple. One thing that is nice, by the way, is they're almost all the same package, 3528. There's 0603. By the way, anything 0603, it's not going to be very bright. It's tiny. Like you just can't put that much power through that size. So this is how big 3528 is, and then maybe just for comparison, I'll just show what 0805 or 0603. I think the resistor might be 0603. Let's see. 1 second. Okay, so this is 0603, just for comparison. So this is an 0603 LED, and this is, it's big, it's chunky, and they're expecting that there's a lot of current that's going to go through it. So that's kind of nice. So I thought I would start with this one because, it's 60 milliamps, which is, no joke. So it's like 2 diodes in parallel, probably, or it's like one very big diode that you can just put that much current through. 3.6 volts. It's expected, as you get to the shorter wavelengths, the shorter the wavelength, the higher the voltage. And it comes in at 3528. It's from Worth, which, they make really good stuff. And it's right at that right frequency, 365, and they've got lots in stock. So I'm going to try out this UV emitter and just emit, I'm just going to get the PCBs, and I'm going to try a bunch of different LEDs and see which one looks best. Well, I'm going to get my CyberDog choker out and just see how it looks and compare them, and then we'll get them into the shop, whichever one looks best. So this is my UV LED pick of the week.
And that's a great search.
Where